You've been showing up when nobody clapped. You've been holding it together with a smile that sometimes feels more like a mask than a mirror. You've been fighting battles nobody even knows you're in, and if we're being honest tonight, you're tired, not just need a nap tired, but how do I keep doing this tired, the kind of tired that doesn't come from lack of sleep, but from carrying more than you were ever meant to hold alone. And yet here you are, still showing up, still believing something beautiful can be made out of this mess, still whispering hope when your voice trembles under the weight of it all. I need you to hear me when I say, your weariness is not weakness. It's evidence that you've been pouring even when you felt empty, that you've been trying even when quitting whispered your name, that you've been loving even when your heart was bruised. There is something sacred about the season you're in. Because sometimes the exhaustion is not punishment, it's transition. You're shedding old versions of yourself that no longer fit. You're outgrowing what once felt comfortable, and that stretching, that breaking open. That's where strength is born. See, you thought you were falling apart, but really you're unfolding, and I know it doesn't feel like it right now, but this tired version of you still carries power. Still carries grace, still carries purpose. You don't have to be the strongest one in the room anymore. You don't have to pretend that everything is fine. You don't have to rush your healing or hide your humanity. Sometimes the holiest thing you can do is rest to breathe, to let the tears fall and know that even in the breaking, you are becoming. So don't despise this tired season. It's proof that you've been in motion, that something in you refuses to give up. You are not behind, you are not forgotten, you are simply being refined, and when the dust settles, when the strength returns, you'll look back and realize the tired you wasn't weak, she was transforming. Your weariness is not weakness. It's easy to confuse the two because the world often glorifies constant motion. It praises those who never pause, who hustle without rest, who wear exhaustion like a badge of honor. But being tired doesn't mean you've failed. It means you've been showing up. It means you've been pouring out energy, emotion, and faith into something that matters. Weariness is not the evidence of defeat. It's the residue of effort. It's what happens when you've been faithful, when you've been consistent, when you've been fighting battles seen and unseen. There's a sacredness in being weary. It shows that your heart has been in the fight, that you haven't been idle. The strongest people aren't the ones who never get tired. They're the ones who feel the fatigue and still choose to move forward, even if all they can do is crawl. Weariness is a sign that you've cared deeply, loved hard, and given your best in spaces where it wasn't always easy to do so. You can't be weary if you've never worked, if you've never stretched, if you've never believed beyond what was comfortable. So that tiredness you feel isn't weakness. It's evidence that you've been in motion toward growth. We live in a culture that tells us strength is loud, bold, and unbending. But sometimes real strength is quiet. It's sitting in stillness, acknowledging that your body, mind, and soul are crying out for a pause. It's having the courage to say, I need to rest, without shame, because only those who know how to rest can rise again. The world wants to convince you that needing a break means you've lost your edge, but the truth is, rest is what sharpens you. You can't pour from an empty cup, and you can't keep giving if you've forgotten how to receive. Weariness doesn't disqualify you, it humanizes you. It reminds you that you're not a machine but a soul with limits, emotions, and depth. In those moments when you feel depleted, you're invited to refill, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. The pause you take in weariness becomes the power that carries you forward. The tired heart still beats, and the weary soul still carries purpose. When you stop seeing tiredness as weakness, you allow it to teach you balance, humility, and renewal. You begin to realize that even in exhaustion, you are still strong because you haven't given up, you're not breaking down, you're breaking through. There comes a point in every journey when everything starts to feel heavy, confusing, and uncertain. The pieces you've been trying to hold together start to slip through your fingers, and it feels like life is falling apart. But sometimes what looks like a breakdown is really the start of a breakthrough. It's not destruction, it's reconstruction. The foundation you once stood on is shifting, not to collapse you, but to make room for something stronger, something deeper, something truer to who you're becoming. When you've been carrying pain, disappointment, and pressure for too long, your spirit starts to rebel against staying the same. The discomfort you feel is the soul's way of saying, it's time for change. What you call breaking down may just be your old self trying to make space for your next level. The habits, the fears, the identities that once protected you can't go where you're headed, so they start to fall apart. And yes, that falling apart hurts. It feels like losing control, but maybe control was never the goal. Maybe freedom is. Breakthroughs are rarely neat or peaceful. They come with tears, silence, and moments of deep questioning. You may feel lost, but that's because you're walking a new path that hasn't been mapped yet. The breakdown strips away what's fake, what's heavy, what's no longer aligned with your growth. It forces you to see what's real, what's worth keeping, and what needs to be released. It's a painful process, but it's sacred, because you can't step into new strength while still holding onto the comfort of old survival patterns. Every time you think you're falling apart, look closer. You might just be expanding. What if the shaking is just your old walls crumbling so light can reach the places that have been dark for too long? What if the tears are watering the ground for your next harvest? You are not being punished, you are being prepared. The breaking is part of the building. The tears are part of the transformation. The chaos is part of creation. You're not losing yourself. You're uncovering the truest parts of who you are. So even when everything feels like it's falling to pieces, remember this. Sometimes things have to fall apart so that you can finally come together. Rest is not quitting. It's recalibrating. There's a difference between giving up and giving yourself permission to breathe. The world tells you that stopping means you're weak, that pausing means you've lost momentum, but rest is not surrender, it's strategy. It's the moment when you gather what's left of your strength, center your mind, and remind your spirit of who you are and why you started. You can't keep pouring out energy without ever refilling what's been drained. Rest is the reset button that keeps you aligned with purpose instead of just surviving on pressure. When you rest, you allow clarity to return. You start to hear your own voice again beneath the noise of demands and deadlines. Rest doesn't mean you've lost your drive. It means you're choosing to protect it. You can only keep moving at full speed for so long before exhaustion starts to distort your vision. Fatigue makes small things look like mountains and confusion feel like failure. Rest reminds you that the mountain isn't as big as it looks when you're tired. It's just your perspective that needs space to breathe. There is power in stepping back without walking away. Rest gives you room to remember that your worth isn't tied to your productivity. You don't have to earn peace by achieving something. You're allowed to simply be. Taking a pause doesn't mean the dream is dead. It means you're giving it the energy it deserves when you return. Every great creation, every major breakthrough, every transformation requires rhythm, work and rest, movement and stillness, giving and receiving. Without rest, even the strongest foundation begins to crack. The world might keep spinning, but you don't have to lose yourself trying to keep up. The quiet moments are not wasted. They're where wisdom grows. When you slow down, you see what you couldn't while rushing. You start to notice what matters, what drains you, and what gives you life again. Rest teaches discernment. It helps you move from striving to flowing. It reminds you that even in stillness, progress is being made because growth doesn't always look like movement. Sometimes it looks like waiting, healing, and realignment. Rest is an act of faith in yourself, that you can pause and still have purpose. It's choosing renewal over burnout, intention over impulse, peace over pressure. You're not quitting, you're preparing for your next rise. Strength is born in surrender. Real power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, sometimes it weeps, sometimes it lets go. There is a kind of strength that comes not from holding everything together, but from finally allowing what's too heavy to fall. We spend so much time trying to prove we're strong by carrying things that are breaking us, by forcing ourselves to smile through pain, by pretending we're fine when our hearts are tired. But surrender is not defeat, it's the beginning of freedom. It's choosing honesty over appearance, healing over hiding, truth over control. When you surrender, you stop fighting battles that were never yours to win. You release the need to control outcomes and people, and you begin to trust that what's meant for you won't require you to destroy yourself to keep it. Surrender teaches you humility. It reminds you that strength isn't about power, it's about peace. The moment you stop striving to manage everything on your own, you create space for clarity to enter. You see more clearly what deserves your energy and what doesn't. You realize that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop fighting against the current and allow it to carry you somewhere new. Surrender doesn't mean you no longer care. It means you care enough to stop forcing what's not working. It's a sacred shift from control to flow, from fear to faith, from exhaustion to trust. The strength that's born in surrender is quiet but unshakable. It's the strength that comes from knowing you don't have to prove your worth. You don't have to chase validation. You don't have to earn peace by running yourself dry. When you surrender, you stop reacting from panic and start responding from wisdom. You begin to move with intention instead of anxiety. In surrender, you find your true self. The masks fall, the striving stops, and what remains is authenticity. You learn that vulnerability is not weakness. It's the soil where courage grows. You become stronger not by holding tighter, but by releasing what no longer fits the next version of you. Every time you let go of something that drains you, you make room for something that builds you. Strength born in surrender is the kind that can't be shaken, because it's rooted in truth, in acceptance, and in peace that doesn't depend on circumstances. It's not about giving up. It's about giving in to growth. The tired version of you still carries purpose. It's easy to believe that exhaustion disqualifies you, that your weariness means you've lost your edge or fallen behind. But purpose doesn't disappear just because you're drained. It doesn't fade when you're uncertain or struggling to find your rhythm. Purpose is woven into who you are. It doesn't leave when your energy does. Even when you're tired, even when your hands are trembling, there's still something sacred inside you pushing forward, whispering that this moment of fatigue is not the end of your story. You may not feel strong right now, but feeling empty doesn't make you any less valuable. Sometimes your purpose is still active in the stillness. It's alive in your ability to keep showing up, to keep believing, even if all you can give is a quiet yes. You're still becoming, even when you can't see progress. The tired version of you still holds the wisdom of every battle you've survived. Every scar, every tear, every late night prayer has built a strength in you that doesn't fade with exhaustion. It deepens because of it. Purpose isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. It's not found in the loud moments when everything looks successful. It's found in the quiet ones when you're too tired to pretend, too weary to perform, yet you still choose to keep your heart open. The tired version of you is real, raw, and honest, and that honesty carries power. There's something beautiful about admitting, I don't have it all together, and still daring to take one more step. That's purpose in motion. You don't have to be at your best to be used for something meaningful. You don't need to feel inspired every day to make an impact. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply not give up. The tired you still carries light for someone else who's walking in darkness. The tired you still carries grace, compassion, and resilience. The tired you still carries evidence that even when life presses hard, you refuse to break. Rest doesn't erase your purpose, it renews it. The pauses, the tears, the quiet days, they are all part of your becoming. The tired version of you is not a lesser version. It's the one being refined, strengthened, and prepared. You are not running out of purpose. You are being reminded that purpose doesn't depend on how you feel, it depends on who you are. Transition always feels like tension before transformation. Every season of change comes with discomfort. It's the space between what was and what will be, and that space can feel unfamiliar and heavy. You start to sense that something in your life is shifting, but you can't fully see where it's leading yet. You're outgrowing old habits, old patterns, and old identities, but the new version of you hasn't fully formed. That's where the tension lies, in the stretch between who you were and who you're becoming. It's not an easy place to stand, but it's a necessary one. Tension is the sign that transformation is happening. It's the pull that reminds you growth is not comfortable. When you're transitioning, you might feel restless, uncertain, or even lost. You might question everything around you and within you, but that's part of the process. Change demands that you release what no longer fits, and releasing always feels like breaking before it feels like freedom. The discomfort doesn't mean you're failing, it means you're evolving. You're being stretched so that your capacity can match your calling. The truth is, transformation never happens in still waters. It happens when the waves hit, when stability shakes, when what once made sense suddenly doesn't anymore. Transition strips away your comfort zone and forces you to trust the unseen. You start realizing that what used to fulfill you no longer does. The spaces that once felt right now feel tight because your spirit is expanding. That tension you feel is not chaos, it's alignment trying to happen. You are being positioned for something greater, and the in-between is preparing you to hold it. It's tempting to run from the tension, to rush the process just to escape the uncertainty, but rushing robs you of revelation. The transition is where you learn endurance, patience, and faith in the process itself. Transformation doesn't come overnight. It's a slow unfolding. The tension is there to teach you how to stand firm, how to trust timing, and how to let go of what no longer serves your growth. So when life feels tight, confusing, or uncomfortable, remember that pressure always precedes purpose. The tension isn't trying to destroy you. It's trying to deliver you. You're being stretched because you're being shaped for more. What feels like resistance now will one day make sense as the moment you were remade. Transformation always starts with tension, but it ends with freedom.